Right, so my name is John Thompson. I'm project manager for the storage and emerging technologies part of ONAP. And today I'm going to talk, as Pedro said, about our cloud management platform, how we have worked with the hosting industry to provide an infrastructure as a service solution, and then talk a little bit about the work we've done in Trilogy 2, which has already been mentioned by Pedro and Felipe, and see how we might be able to interact between operators and also from the cloud side. So, first thing I'm going to give you an intro to ONAP. You may or may not be aware of who and what we are. Then I'm going to talk about our cloud, CDN and storage systems, just so that you have an awareness of our products. Then, as I said, talking about Trilogy 2, the marketplace. So, what is ONAP? We're an infrastructure as a service software platform provider. So we work from a slightly different side to the operators, the manufacturers and the vendors. We're coming at this same problem from a different side. We're coming from the data center side and moving up towards how can we manage infrastructure for our clients. So we started from a web hosting company, UK2Net, in mid-2008. And then our CEO realized that there was a problem for people going to virtualized infrastructure. They wanted to use virtual web hosting in the cloud, and they didn't have a platform. So this is when we had introduced ONAP Cloud. We now have 900 customers, 87 countries. There's quite impressive stats. We have 170 CDN points of presence, so this is quite significant infrastructure that we have. We don't own the infrastructure. ONAP is purely, as I said, a software platform provider. So we use our customers' platforms and we offer services. And what we believe as a company is that together, through a federated system, we can compete with the likes of Amazon, Rackspace, the big incumbents. And then as we go on, we've got the European projects, and I'll talk a little bit about the Compete Federation. So, again, talking a little bit of what we do. So we worked very much at the hardware level. So we work with Xen, KVM virtualization, and also VMware. And what we started off with was virtual appliances, virtual servers. So we have a hypervisor management platform where we have our cloud system. And as you would expect, we look at scaling. We are looking towards some of this network stitching that Pedro mentioned. So not fully network service-defined networking, software-defined networking. But what we're looking at is mechanisms for controlling this. The reason why is that hardware is presented to us. We get given this hardware, and we need to be able to manage this infrastructure. At the moment, it's very difficult. We get VLANs, we get various different configurations that are shown to us, but without the control, it's a very difficult problem. So we're moving into the SDN space, whether or not we like it. We're moving there. So from the cloud platform side, we're managing these servers. We provide also some other things that are necessary, such as the user management and billing systems. We also provide APIs so that customers can interact and create billing platforms. So that was how we started off. So we had a platform that allowed people, web hosts primarily, to be able to do virtual hosting. And they benefited from the converged infrastructure. We then moved on to CDN. So we realized that we had these points of presence, we had these hardware points. So we can actually start using edge servers and content servers. So we can create a CDN service on top of our infrastructure. Underpinning this, from the storage side, this is the part that I more primarily work on. This is a network-attached storage system. So rather than having a SAN system which costs a lot of money. What we do is we have direct attached storage, and we scale up as we go. So throughout the rest of this talk, I'm going to talk about operator expenditure rather than CapEx. So we're looking at reducing CapEx expenditure, so your upfront costs, and trying to scale as you go up. The other thing that I just want to mention is that so dedicated servers. A lot of data centers around still have bare metal servers. So you have bare metal servers in a large proportion of data centers. And this was a relatively recent thing that we introduced. And then we realized that actually bare metal servers, what you want is the management and configuration. So we have smart servers, which are the idea of a bare metal, so the performance of a bare metal, but within a managed system. So these are all tools that we use for promoting liquidity. And then on the side, this is the idea that now we have resources on our CDN platform, we can actually share them between different providers. So who are our customers? As I said, we started as a web host provider. So we have a lot of cloud hosts that they were our original part of the platform. Some big ones to call out: Pier 1, North America. We have DediServe, VPS, .NET. So some of the bigger providers. Then we have our sort of channel retailers. These are people that look at our platform and start selling on behalf of us. CDN providers, the largest one, CDN 77, SkyPark as well. So these are big names in competing with Akamai. And then telcos, so the ones probably more interesting for this group. We've recently signed up a deal with PACnet, and as you can see, we're moving into this space. We're getting a lot of interest, and this is one of the areas we're growing in. So, vital statistics. Just want to, not many people have heard about that. For pure number of providers, so this is not the size of the providers, but 1 in 3 public clouds is running on our platform by provider. We have 2,000 plus cloud deployments, and we have 3,000 clients, over 3,000 clients. So this is a slightly older map. You can see the more recent one of our locations. So if I was an operator or someone or just had a data center, I'd see this and say, oh, actually, we've got a large number of locations. So we have a mechanism for cooperating. So this is the ONAP CDN platform. So as was mentioned in the earlier presentation, one of the core properties of a CDN is you want low latency, you want location awareness, you want good performance. But it's expensive to go and build in all these different locations. I mean, being a colo or a managed service provider in each of these places is expensive. So this is an incentive for us for our customers to use CDN. So to try and make it a little bit more, put an example. So we have a data center in Madrid. Apologies if any of these arrows are in the wrong locations. So we have customers that may want to view content in a different location. So we have different markets. We may have the EMEA. We may have China. We have people wanting content, and that's expensive to go into these new markets. So with the federated CDN, what we allow our customers to do is to sell those edge locations, and then to be able to, for other customers to be able to use those. So they select an edge provider that's more relevant, and then they can become part of their CDN platform. And to incentivize for the edge providers may be people who have excess capacity in these locations. So you may have a data center in Brazil or North America that's not, well, most likely somewhere that is over-provisioned, but you may have some interesting properties of having a server location that's not very well established. Okay. Quick digression into the storage and cloud. So what we have is, for the ONAP storage platform, is we want to reduce the upfront costs and pay as you grow. So if you have a big SAN upfront, you're paying for the capacity and bandwidth, but this doesn't scale as you grow. So what we do is, for our virtual storage system, is we allow the hypervisors to have their direct storage and we present this as a virtual block there. The other interesting aside is the cloud boot. So one of some of the earlier topics we've also mentioned is being able to manage and provision these servers quickly. So what we have is a PXE boot, a network boot system where we can provision VMs based on templates, and this allows our customers to rapidly reprovision. Now that works well for the typical hypervisor virtual machine, typical hypervisor platform, but it may not be so useful for bare metal servers where we don't have access. So again, for the SDN side, we're looking at how can you get access to the infrastructure to be able to power cycle those systems. And the other benefit, of course, is you don't need to use disk content, you're just using the RAM on the servers. So scalable platforms and manageability. So we have various different resources that we've virtualized with creating liquidity. So we now have a project that a number of partners here are working on. This is very similar in many ways. It's the diagram that Pedro showed earlier. We're working on the Trilogy 2 project as well. Skip past that one. So what are we doing for the Trilogy 2 project? What we believe is that we've created these liquid resources, CDN being the first stage of that. So we want to make a marketplace. So this is one way of promoting liquidity. So we have supply from the sellers and demand from the buyers, and there's this constant need to try and match that. We're acting as a brokerage service in between them. So we need to be able to communicate the resources we have, to be able to enumerate them, and to be able to validate what is what, and to be able to say that a buyer has bought this resource. So there's a lot of interesting principles that we're working on as part of the Trilogy 2 project. So one of the things that is interesting is the virtual service provider model. We have, at the moment, we have between different cloud platforms we can aggregate resources, that's fine. What we have now, though, with we worked on as part of Trilogy, is the idea that you can become a virtual service provider. So this is a relatively new concept in our area, where you don't own any infrastructure, you don't own and you don't have customers. What you can do is you can start establishing a market by buying VMs and then providing them. So you can then provide services on top of that. So this is a system that went out just a couple of months ago in beta, and we have various layers. So this is the second stage of the federation. So we had CDN, which was the first stage, storage, bandwidth. The second stage is compute, being able to provision resources and buy resources on a marketplace. So there's a lot of interest in this. And to try and spearhead interest, this Cloud.net platform is also open source. So if you have, if you want to try and create a system similar to this, where we can, you can provide virtual service provider view, this code is available. Just to show that there is interest in this, we have a number of locations that have already started to provide hardware resources. We also have some VMs popping up now, so people are starting to use this. So it's just to say that we have a number of locations, and although it was initially spearheaded by a European project, there's been quite a large interest from the States. So it's although it's new, there is interest. So what are the advantages? So the advantages for the end users is that we give them choice. So one of the big problems that we have with typical cloud platforms at the moment is that they don't like vendor lock-in. This is one of the things that is normally stated as being one of the barriers to entry. So by providing this, we're looking at ways of trying to avoid it. We also give our end users more flexibility on choosing based on location, latency. So these parameters are coming up with the Cloud.net marketplace that it shows. We're showing the resources that are available. So we're moving again from physical expenditure early on to operational expenditure. So scale as you grow. So for the service providers, what we have now is why would they be benefiting from this? They have a new channel to sell their capacity to. So they have excess capacity in those locations, and they have a new vendor to sell it. One of the big things for our area is cost per acquisition. So acquiring new customers is expensive. By having this, we lower that cost immensely. We don't have to pay until we start transferring. Then we're providing a much larger area that these customers can use. I was trying to find a news link screenshot for the next thing to try and promote the Federation, which is, but I couldn't quite find. We've now acquired Solus VM, so this is in the last, very recently. This was a low-end provider. So they were an entry-level system, and with them we got 2,000 extra providers. So we're having a way of growing the platform. So Solus was a market leader for very low entry systems, and now we have a system that allows that to. We now have a platform that caters for that end of the spectrum, the market. So that was one way of spearheading the adoption of Federation. So looking ahead, so from ONAP's view, we've started establishing these services. We've started linking various services together. What we're now seeing is the emergence of virtual service providers. The example is the mobile virtual service provider space. So in the UK, we have various operators that rely on infrastructure. We're seeing that in the cloud space as well. So you don't have to own the infrastructure. We're now leasing that infrastructure through our platform. So the next stage is true liquidity. Although we have storage content, we have bandwidth and compute, these are in fixed locations at the moment. And what we're looking at is a mechanism for actually being able to transport these systems. So we might want replication across clouds. We might want backup based on regional governance. So we're seeing different mechanisms that are of interest to our customers, and we're looking to introduce that to our platform. So the market is changing, whereas people would be relatively fixed. We're seeing this in telco space, we're seeing in the cloud space, this is happening as well. End users are being shown the resources that they can acquire. And we're finding that the stickiness of our customers, the idea that they stay with a particular provider, is no longer the case. So what we're finding is that our customers, the cloud providers, have to now provide unique selling points, reasons for adopting the clouds. And as we scale up, one of the earlier comments was also on how management becomes more complex. Now, if we're managing services across an individual cloud, that's we're looking at one data center. That's one thing. But now we're looking at having multiple data center connection from single port on, and this becomes even more problematic when we're looking at transporting IP space, etc. What can we? How can we ensure that our VMs stay live when we do migrations, etc. So this is a big problem that we see. So takeaways, as has been said already, managing infrastructure is a hard problem. There are other providers out there that offer the full stack solution. ONAP is one of them. We're offering different levels of service, and what we're finding is that we're allowing the customers to focus on what their core business is, rather than managing of hypervisors and VMs. Yeah, market is changing. So Federation, we've got various locations. We're seeing that compute is growing, CDN as well. So we're going live with GA at the end of this year. So this is when you'll start seeing press releases about Cloud.net and various other aspects of the compute platform. And generally, as we've discussed, cloud resources are becoming more liquid, whether it be compute, storage, bandwidth. These resources are becoming managed in smaller ways, either by smaller VMs or through much more focused applications. So this is going to be the next area that we tackle. Okay, so I left this open for questions because I believe that it's quite a different focus to some of the other talks.
Preguntas, reacciones.
Any special technology or SDN? Are you using something?
Currently not. So we're not. So at the moment, it's this stitching of networks. So we have the idea of VLANs. We put that in. We're sort of aware of that. What we are finding though is that OpenFlow and some of the mechanisms that are presented from SDN will be useful. So one of the typical problems, bare metal servers, I highlighted a bit earlier. So you have these dedicated servers, and you want to be able to restart them or re-provision them, but you've lost connectivity to them. So what we want to be able to do is to use capture that networking information to be able to say, actually, we're now at the provisioning stage. So we've found that we have the hardware. We've restarted it through the IPMI switch. We've connected to that. We're starting up, and now we have a communication channel. So we're finding that there are various tools and techniques that we're now finding we have a gap in, and we need to go to.
You help your customers to distribute the contents. Do you enable this distribution in a flexible way, or this?
Yes. So if I understand the question correctly, for the CDN platform, this is a point of contention we have, is that we have various providers that may not actually be good enough to provide resources for the CDN network. They may be pretty poor performance. So what we need to do is look at SLAs with and provide a minimum standard. So we do some assessment from our side to check that that's met, and if they don't meet that, we remove them from the CDN platform. But that is a particular problem.
Do you have a plan for expanding to Latin America?
Right, so this is an older map, so we actually do have more locations, more vendors are actually actually further down from the map, so in Argentina we have a few locations. The interest level normally comes from the small to medium end of the market at the moment, so the providers that want to try and go to cloud hosting, but may not have, on their own be able to provide a good level of service. So what we're finding is that as the requirements for content grows in Latin America, it's growing hugely. We're seeing that there are more incentives for providers to be established there. It's still early days, but we're starting to see a move to that. Competitors in the space, obviously OpenStack, CloudStack, there's quite a big area of presence. But we're finding that people find that that's very complicated. They manage this platform, but then once they have it, they're stuck. And the other big growth area is China, because they like our view of the world of operating expenditure rather than spending money up front.
So, thanks a lot, John.